I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Schmack-a-magab, it's time for the only news that matters. And David Ellefson compared Megadeth's efforts to go mainstream to other thrash bands who stayed true to their sound, suggesting that the latter course may have been wiser. Megadeth has explored many avenues over the years, with its late 90s releases arguably sticking out as the most appealing to wider audiences. However, history has shown that Dave Mustaine and company's efforts to cater to mainstream taste weren't particularly sustainable. At the same time, bands like Slayer and Testament stayed true to their thrash. Wait, no, they didn't. Both those bands waned as well. You got Diablos and Musica, which is basically new metal, and Testament. Come on, I mean, what was it? The Ritual, and then I dig Low, and I dig, The Gathering. I dig those albums, but man, that didn't sound like thrash to me. Well, I guess The Gathering did to an extent, and Low, but not The Ritual, not at all, man. But anyway, let's continue this. And they say they stayed true to the thrash metal fundamentals and eventually reaped the rewards for it. Ellefson noted during a recent interview with the Talk To Me podcast, he said, Larry Mazer, when he picked us up to manage us after Risk, he said it best. He goes, "You guys zig and the rest of the world zags." And he went more into it, writing mainstream songs. Suddenly, bands like Disturbed, Godsmack, and Korn were just roaring at that point. And it was around that time that Slayer began experiencing somewhat of a renaissance after the period of unappreciated in the early 90s. And Ellefson added, "We did Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, and Cryptic Writings, and that stuff." So it's funny how Slayer, Testament, and that stuff, because it was a heavier thrash and it sort of went down in scope. And we went up, Metallica, of course, too. And then as the dust settled in the early 2000s, suddenly Slayer was starting to come back up because they never changed. Even Testament is still here to tell their story. They didn't go in and hire a different producer and let's be more mainstream. It's funny how Slayer ultimately ended on top. Quite honestly, with total credit, in fact. I remember speaking to Kerry King when they came through town, and Kerry and I have always gotten on well. And he's just out of nowhere said, "So, whose idea was it to do Risk?" And it was a combination of a lot of stuff. Boy, I'm glad I don't have that in one of my discographies, says Kerry King. Come on, Kerry King has bashed Diablos and Musica as well. And let me tell you something, if I had to pick, I'll take Risk. And Risk sucks. I can't get into Risk at all. But Diablos and Musica is fucking, it's just embarrassing. It has that, that down tuning and that breakdown, oh man. Not my Slayer, man. And even though not as bad, but still, the next album, God Hates Us All, it had some of that poo metal element as well in some of those songs, and But Risk, I remember when that shit came out. I remember reading an interview where Dave Mustaine said that Lars Ulrich told him, "You guys should take risks." And that's how Risk came to be. And a lot of people blame Marty Friedman for Risk, but nothing could be further than the truth. Yeah, Marty Friedman wanted to go more pop, but hey, so did Dave, and yeah, that album, I didn't buy it though, man. I was smart enough not to buy it because when I heard that Crush 'em crap and Breadline and stuff like that, I was like, ugh. But I did eventually hear it. I think I did a track by track on that album, and God, yes, it's god awful, but I'll take god awful over nu metal. I'm just not a fan. Never been a fan of nu metal and never will be. I don't like that. I just don't like the deal. And I'm a big fan of Pantera. But the thing is, Pantera with the breakdowns, I think they did it great. But when the nu metal bands were doing those breakdowns, it just became a little too, I don't know, less genuine, But hey, it's like Van Halen. I love Van Halen with Roth, but Van Halen with Roth spawned your Poisons and your White Snakes, and, well, not White Snakes, but Warrants and stuff like that. And I wasn't a fan of none of that stuff either. But I still love Van Halen. I still love Pantera, even though they really did, spawn a lot of that nu metal crap that ended up influencing Slayer on top of that. Fucking Slayer. They did come back. I thought World Painted Blood was good, and Christ's Illusion was good. Repentless was good. I mean, none as good as, in my opinion, the early stuff. My favorite's the Metal Blade stuff. But, up to, really for me, up to Season of the Abyss is the prime Slayer. From Show No Mercy, Season of the Abyss, I don't think they've ever done an album as good as that. But in my opinion, I would say, World Painted Blood would be the best album after Seasons in the Abyss. But yeah, that's just my opinion. But anyway, yeah, Riz sucks. And I think it sucks that David Ellefson was kicked out of, Megadeth because they caught him adjusting his antenna. He was applying the handbrake and he got in a lot of trouble for it, It was assault on a friendly weapon, He was auditioning the hand puppet. What's wrong with that, man? It was a backstroke roulette, It was badgering the witness, man. It was baiting your hook. It was ball slapping fun that Dave Ellefson was having, and it cost him his job. He was banging his bacon, He was banging one out, He was banging the Cyclops, He was bashing the bishop, He was basting the ham. He was, should I continue? Of course I should. He was greasing the flagpole, He was having a tug, He was hitchhiking to heaven. Whatever that means. Anyway, yeah, he was jacking the beanstick. So what? He was jiggling the jewelry. Oh, man. He was making a fist sandwich. What's wrong with that, right? He was milking the monkey, So what? It was a one-man orgy he was having, It was a one-man tug-of-war, He was polishing the rocket, man. What's up with that? Is that enough to get kicked out of a band? Really? By shaking hands with Johnson? What? I don't get it, man. So what if he was stroking the dog? I just don't get it. It's not cool, man, that he was working his willy and he got fired from it. He was only feeding the pony. I mean, come on, man. He was whipping the cream, man. He was white knuckling. You know what I'm saying? Yes, David Ellefson, I don't think is ever going to live down what he did. Be it against it, be it for it, hey, you shouldn't throw accusations out there. You shouldn't, everybody makes mistakes. Let me tell you something, man. Everybody does make some mistakes, like me. Hey, I'll be honest with you. One time, I was fooled online. I mean, this is when I first got online, by a girl that happened to be a guy. Yeah, that happened to me. I ain't gonna lie. And I should be goofed on it. But at least I didn't pull out my pecker and walking downtown to some guy online pretending to be a girl, you know. I wouldn't be tickling the kitty like that in front of a person that was really a guy, you know. And on top of that, he's married, which hey, good for him, man. He saved that marriage because that woman didn't leave him. But then again, I mean, what was she gonna get? Dave Ellefson money after being kicked out of Megadeth. And look, I met Dave. He was a douche when I met him on Countdown Extinction. Then I met him afterwards, and he was nice, but he fucked up, man. I don't get it, man. I don't get the mentality of beating off babe, but people are people. I have never beaten off to anybody over a phone, online. I would never do that, ever. Because of shit like this. And look at his reputation. He can go out there, do a gazillion bands and everything, but people are still going to remember him whacking off to some chick online, which everybody claimed he was grooming. I think that's going a little overboard, as she was already of age when he was, when he was walking out at the Y, when he was working in the garden in front of that girl, it was two-finger typing, man. He was unclogging the drain, and it really, really, really cost him his job. That's right. He got fired from Megadeth for visiting Niagara Falls. That's what I think. And that's what I know, man. And I think it's lame. But you know what, man? Dave Mustaine, by doing that, I guess he gets more money. Because I'm sure he was paying Junior more than he's paying James Lomenzo now. So, yeah, I'm surprised that he took him back in the first place. Because, Dave sued him. David Ellefson sued Dave Mustaine and lost. And, it's, whatever, All this happened because he was steaming the oyster. Yeah, that's right. He was squeezing the peach, man. He was playing the beaver. He was, it wasn't good, But it wasn't good when he was trying to get to know himself. All right, that's enough. That's enough goofing on Dave Ellefson jacking off. Till I do my next story on Dave Ellefson jacking off. Maybe I wouldn't be doing these jacking off stories if he just remained faithful to his wife. After all, you're a preacher. But then again, preachers, I heard of a preacher that, would get hookers, go to hotels, and then somebody slashed his tire knowing that he was getting hookers. Yeah, these preachers are something else. Hey, but at least it's female, prostitutes instead of little kids, right? Which other preachers do. But anyway, what do you all think of Megadeth going the commercial route? Do you think that Slayer didn't, like Dave is saying, or Testament? Because to me, Diablos and Musica and The Ritual beg to differ. But hey, man, I accept everybody's opinion, so leave it in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching The Only News That Matters. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Ring that little notification bell. I would appreciate that. And like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty. Listen to Black Sabbath and Schmack 'em a Cob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. and so nevermore shall we see you again.